gotta rise up, rise up, rise up. They say it's to protect you while they try to dispossess you of the right to decide between wrong or right, to openly discuss what politicians hide. They want to keep their secret plans from the public eye. We gotta keep our fires burning, keep our spirits bright. We gotta rise up, rise up, rise up. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people. Money got no children, and bombs ain't for building, and killing ain't no way to make a peaceful day, as all of God's children can easily explain. We gotta keep our fires burning, keep our spirits bright, stand up and speak for what we know is right. We gotta rise up, rise up, rise up. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people. I see days ahead. Kiss my children into bed. All across the planet I see that everything is fine. Yeah! Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people, against the war. Rise up, people. We got the power and the will, and we'll do it for our children, for the warmongers and the corporate whores in the history books with the dinosaurs. I claim my power, I claim my rights, and no dirty tricks are gonna change my mind. I'm gonna rise up, rise up, rise up. I'm gonna rise up, rise up, rise up. Rise up, people, against the war. 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 Rise up.
Well, good evening, folks. This is Dan Shea with Veterans for Peace Forum. Just before coming in here, I went by, get some coffee, and it was a Friday paper in the Metro. It just was glaring at me, and the first thing I saw was "Farewell to a Soldier and a Daughter." And just before coming to this program, it made me, I had to pick it up and take a look. Here's a man, Bob McLyman, kisses the coffin of his daughter, Army PFC Erin McLyman, at her funeral this Thursday in Eugene. And she was just 26 years old, in Iraq, in Baghdad. And her base had come under mortar fire. And when we start talking about what's happening in Iraq, we start talking about, is the war over? We just moved into an election. And it's as though everything is at peace now. Everything is supposed to be going right, and yet we're still hearing these reports of these bombings and people being killed. And our men and women here are coming back. But I know that in Iraq that we have thousands of people that are suffering, hundreds of thousands of people that are suffering. So today's guest actually is Bassem Kamal, who we just happened to cross paths here and started having a conversation, and I asked him a little bit about what was going on. He's an Iraqi now living in the U.S. He had been tortured by Saudi prison guards, and we're going to ask him a little bit more about that. Former interpreter for both the British and U.S. commands during the invasion and occupation, and a witness to atrocities on all sides. And as we began talking, we started talking about post-traumatic stress, and I could see that you were going through some of your own post-traumatic stress. As a person that suffers from it himself, it's easy to recognize. But where do refugees go when they're having trouble with these invisible wounds and people don't see it? Who do you talk to? What do you start to do?
Well, honestly, I want to thank you for inviting me for your program, and I'm so excited here to have the opportunity to talk about a little of the truth, which maybe people do not know about it.
Uh-huh.
First of all, if you want to talk about the stress, I will say 27 million of Iraqi people are stressed in the last 4 decades.
27 million. Wow.
Over that. I mean, since Saddam became president of Iraq, up to date, I don't think so one Iraqi person has been really arrested and confirmed, unless the allies of Saddam, who was really convert and love their, to the point which is they are willing to die for Saddam.
Yeah. Well, let's give us a little history at the beginning.
Well, I will talk when Saddam took over Kuwait. I will be starting from here because at that time I was 18, 19 years old.
Okay, let's do that.
And
where were you from exactly?
I'm from Iraq, in the area called Muthanna, South Baghdad.
Okay.
I will say around 270 kilometers South Baghdad. At that time, I was in nursing school, and I got to go draft to the military during the war when Saddam took over Kuwait. So a lot of people ran away and escaped. They don't want to join the war because we believe that war is absolutely wrong.
Insane, right?
Exactly. How can we go to another country and take over and kill innocent people just because Kuwait belonged to Iraq?
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely wrong. And so when the war started, and when America gave the warning to Saddam to get rid of Kuwait, you cannot, just jump over and take another country. Saddam refused, and the war started. At that time, I feel the Iraqi people waked up. Said, that's it. We had enough. 8 years of war with Iran. Another few months, I don't want to say year, few months, taking over Kuwait, destroyed Iraq, destroyed the Iraqi people, destroyed the planet of Iraq. People start suffering hunger, no work, jobless. Even some people start living in a tent. Enough. A revolution started in 1991. All Iraq was down, no government. Me, my brother, friends, everybody in our town was carrying weapon against that regime.
Mm-hmm.
Our town was down for almost like 3 weeks, 4 weeks with no government. Saddam had I would say, green light to fly over people and beat up everybody who says, we don't need Saddam.
Now this was after Kuwait?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Saddam took over Kuwait, when he says finally, okay, I will leave Kuwait after he bombed all these oils and destroyed that town.
Okay. Yeah.
And destroyed all these thousands of Iraqi people when they withdraw from Kuwait from Kuwait to the border of Iraq was just all what you see on your eyes, just dead bodies.
But then when it was in 1981 when they began to drop,
1991
when the bombs started dropping.
Yeah.
That's when the U.S. went in there, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and then they forced, they started pushing Saddam back.
Yes.
And they were on the road to Baghdad.
Mm-hmm.
In that road to Baghdad, thousands of people were fleeing, and even the U.S. was firing on people that were fleeing.
Yes.
And then, as people were going into Baghdad, they stopped short of going any further, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
And then after that, I mean, still people saw probably an opportunity to get rid of Saddam, but then the U.S. supported the no-fly zone,
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay, okay,
exactly.
so
You just read my mind. That's the truth. What happened?
yeah.
If at that time, if we had enough support from U.S. or even from the country around us, Saddam will not be even. We're not going to be in this mess right now. Otherwise, Iraq will be in better situation. At that time, the people at that time, they don't need Saddam no more.
Right.
You know, you cannot just like 12. I would say 12 years later or 13 years later, and then Saddam started. America started and went over to the, as a weapon and master instruction. We need to get rid of Saddam because he got
Right.
a nuke weapon
Was that 2003?
in 2003, and then obviously they found nothing.
Right.
You know, and so I would say about that time, thousands of people who escaped from Iraq in 1991 into the border of Saudi Arabia, into the border of Kuwait, and lived there for, I would say, up to date. Some people.
How many refugees at that point?
At that point in 1991, I believe they were around 22 to 23,000 Iraqi people from all over Iraq.
So that's when you fled into Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
And what happened to you when you went there?
Well, I would say I was I don't have luck at that time. I got caught with other people, and we were put in Saudi jail, and I got
But why
tortured.
would they throw you in jail for being a refugee?
No. First of all, the Saudi people, they did not have the right to let us cross their border because they don't have the authority to cross their border. We were against Saddam.
You were illegal aliens.
Thank you.
Right? Supposedly
Illegal,
in that
yeah.
no human being is illegal, but that's what they want to do.
Illegal
Right.
aliens. You cannot cross border without document, without passport,
Right.
without visa. Especially in Arab countries, it's very hard, honestly. So we crossed. We got put in jail. When United States made a phone call and absolutely contact with the Saudi government, hey, we got 22,000 of Iraqi people running away from Saddam's government. We need to make a camp for them. You cannot just let them back, otherwise Saddam will kill all these young men and put in all these women in jails. Because these people were against him, carrying weapons, tried to get rid of him. So we need to support them. And then the border was opened. That's exactly what happened. They move us from the Iraqi border inside the Saudi border. They give us tent to the people. At that time, a lot of people were in jail, and I was one of them. And then they did interrogate very badly. They were really bad with us. And
what do you mean by that? They were
torturing.
Torture.
Beating up. I was one of the people. I wish if I had a camera at that time. I was beaten up with cable and disrespectful, humiliate your dignity. All the bad thing. And I'm sorry that happened to me in the country. We believe we are in the same blood, as a human, as a neighbor,
Right.
at least. We speak in the same language, we believe in the same religion. And so 3 years later, I get very, very lucky to leave that place. And I had an interview with the United Nations, and I get accepted to come to the United States in 1993 in June. And since then I've been living and working and studying and trying to learn the English.
Doing very well.
I hope so. Honestly, I still feel, and I apologize for my poor English. And it's still up to date. I'm in school and try to have a good future. The nice thing about being as a translator in Iraq, deeply in my heart, I want to appreciate this country because they brought me from hell into a good place. Honestly, I considered I was in a hell and come to heaven, came to a beautiful place to start the fresh life.
Right.
So I would like to appreciate that. So I worked as a translator to help my own people and to help the Americans. And it's very hard for Americans to understand the Arabic culture, especially the Iraqi culture too. So I was there for a while. I have seen everything bad you imagine.
Okay. Now, when you were serving as an interpreter, what years was that?
I was in 2005,
6.
2006.
So you had come here and you had gone back.
Of course,
Okay.
because I love to do something.
Uh-huh.
Especially in Iraq, people are during Saddam's time. People are very locked up.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many people leave Iraq, and get in touch with the outside world.
Right.
Even with the cell phone, with internet, with dish, you're not allowed even to have fax machine in your home during Saddam's time. So the people was really
I
in
gotta
the dark
say
spot.
that kind of sounds funny. You know, I mean, not even allowed to have a fax
Oh yes.
phone
yes.
because when we think about it, you don't even have food. So what's a fax machine? You know,
Well,
but-
some people they do have, like even if you want to have a machine, you have to have the proof from government. You're not going to use something against the government.
The bureaucracy and Homeland Security.
Thank you.
Homeland Security.
You know, you cannot cross these lines with Saddam. It just Saddam was a man who is. Let me tell you this. I have a very good friend of mine. He just made a joke out of it. He says, "You know what, Bassem? Sometimes I don't even talk about Saddam between me and myself." I said, "Why?" He says, "I talk a lot when I'm sleeping, so I'm afraid if I say something bad about him, I will say something bad about him when I'm sleeping, so I'll be killed." So to that point, Saddam built all that fear,
yeah.
all that bad things inside the Iraqi people. And then now, after all these years, since 2003 up to date, I feel sad and a little bit of tiny happiness.
Yeah.
I feel sad because we need to get united right now, the Iraqi people.
Before we go right there, let's go back a little bit to Iraq as an interpreter. Now, you were with U.S. troops and
British troops.
British troops, and as people are put in situations in which I've listened to people that have come to checkpoints and innocent families have been killed.
Yes.
You told me that you had witnessed atrocities on both sides where soldiers were fired into innocent families. How did that make you feel, and what did you see?
Well, if we're talking about the bad things, we have over 30,000 of U.S. Army, maybe more. I would say no, 100,000 of U.S. Army. You cannot consider all these people are good people.
Right.
You know, I mean, I have seen bad soldier, as I'm sure the TV show it in Abu Ghraib jail,
Right.
and in so many areas. But personally, I have seen a bad, especially I was working in Samawa one time, and I've seen myself from British group. He was really treating an Iraqi woman with disrespect. And that's really make me feel sad, because I feel each woman in Iraq, my mom's age is my mom, my sister's age is my sister, or my father's age is my father. You see, if I don't know the person, I will call him uncle, to respect his age and to respect that person. That's the way we grow up, we raised in Iraq. So when I see that man, he get no respect for this woman, and she's old, and almost he want, it just sometimes it's very hard even to talk about it.
Right.
But I've seen the good thing.
Right.
I have seen soldier who build school, who build hospital, who give supplies, who really defend and protect the Iraqi people, and try to give them the truth freedom, not the fake freedom, the truth freedom, and they want to go home.
Yeah.
We came to Iraq to get rid of Saddam. We are going home. We're not here for your oil. We're not here to take your land. We're here to open your mind into, hey, this is Iraq, in Iraq, go ahead,
But
build it.
that's the individual soldier. I don't believe that's the policy of the U.S.
Well, that's true.
I mean, there's a problem here to begin with, and that is that, I have an analogy that I feel, and I'd like to break things down into, if this is your home, you have your wife and kids here in the house, and somebody, maybe there's a criminal in the backyard, So the police come and they knock down the doors and they shoot in through the house and they kill maybe one of your kids and your family members. They catch the bad guy because he's back there and they got him. And then they decide, well, there's more criminals in the neighborhood, so we're going to stick around. And they start moving into your house and they stay there. And they said, well, we came and saved you, but you as a parent, you're going, wait a minute, you know, you just killed my kid, my wife is in, and they're calling her names, you know, get me this, get me that, do this.
What's happened?
And then they say, they give, you know, a little candy to the kid. They build a little thing for somebody, and the kids say thank you. They say, see, they love us. Now, what are you going to say, you know? I mean, that's the way I feel is going on, you know, that, yeah, the kid's going to like that candy when he's got nothing else to eat. You're going to like when you repair a door.
But
when you stay there, when you stay in that house and you come in and you've destroyed, you trampled everything in your path, then there's something wrong. Now we talked about Saddam being bad, and you know when we talk about these things, some of the things is that revolution, if it has to take place, sometimes has to take place by the people themselves.
Thank you.
Right?
That's exactly right.
And the outside forces, I don't think, can come in and declare democracy. Democracy is something that has to be built
from the
inside out.
Exactly.
And these are the kinds of things that...
And that's what happened in 1991.
Okay.
That's exactly when the people stood and they need to get rid of him. At that time was really time to get rid of him.
Uh-huh.
When he withdrew from Kuwait.
Right.
So at that time, people just need help, need support. We did not get that support.
Right.
How come the U.S. soldier went all the way, like I would say, 10 kilometers away from Baghdad, and let's say, our job is done.
Right.
Come on, you're only 17 kilometers or 20 kilometers from to get rid of Saddam. Why are you not doing it? Why? Because they don't want, it's not time for him yet. They want him.
They could have used him still, is what they were hoping.
Exactly.
If they had punished him enough, maybe he would step in line and they can control the oil resources, etc. But, you know, there's one of the other things I wanted to take you, because you went to Saudi Arabia and you're talking about how many people are still there. We didn't talk about that. I mean, you got a chance to come home.
Yes.
How many people are still in prisons in Saudi Arabia?
The last statistic I have been really found on the internet, and people still suffering inside these jails, most of them young men, for no reason, just because they crossed that border. Uh-huh. And honestly, I will take the opportunity and ask everybody who get the power to help these people, to send them home. People, I have one of them is my cousin, blood cousin, and he is being sent for death sentence.
Yeah, and what does the death sentence mean there? What's going to happen?
Cut his head with a sword. And he has I would say 3 or 4 years old girl. He did not even see her. All what he done, he tried to cross the border to find a better life, to start a new life. But look what he ended. And I'm sure if not thousands, 100 of Iraqi people still in jail. And I ask and I beg and I hope some people out there hear me and can do something about it.
Is there some place they can write to? Is there through the UN, through
they've been
Amnesty International?
They've been writing, they've been calling. I hear them on the Iraqi channel, Al Iraqiyya, I'm sorry, Al Furat or Al Iraqi channel.
Or Al Jazeera?
No, I did not hear them on Al Jazeera, be honest with you. They've been asking for Nouri al-Maliki in the last few years. They've been asking the Iraqi government to contact the Saudi government to help them, to release them. We get families. They don't know even we are alive. They don't know even where we at. So please help us. So they've been, screaming in the last, I will say 10 years for no reason, just because they were against Saddam. These people, who's the real people who was against Saddam regime, against his war, against everything bad he's been doing to the Iraqi people. So we need to really care about these people and do something for them and for their families. Some mothers are still in Iraq looking forward and hoping their son will come back one day. And they don't know. I'm sure some people are dead in jails because they get interrogated, tortured, badly tortured, and not even court. They don't even take them to court and find out what their fault, what they have done, what their crimes. You know, so they need to really look forward to these people and try to help them out and send them home.
Well, let's hope that people can find methods to maybe even contact your local representatives and ask them to speak on your behalf of the refugees that are in Saudi Arabia. If people know,
I hope.
you have a, can people contact you?
Absolutely. I got my email, phone number. They can contact me or
You want to say your email?
Absolutely. Elias, ELYAS, E like elephant, L like Larry, Y like yellow, A like apple, and S like Sam, _ 1974 at yahoo.com, or even my phone number 503-270-0441, 503-270-0441.
Well, that's great. And if you have any compassion for anybody anywhere in the world, you need to be involved in trying to make sure that people have a decent, fair trial, that they're allowed to, as refugees, to go home. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, we have immigrants coming across the Mexican border. And imagine, I know that oftentimes those, and I have from a Latino background myself, people coming here are put into similar camps or prisons almost, and but we don't cut off people's heads. They're not being executed for being refugees, you know, and we're trying to open those doors because I don't believe they should exist. People are trying to survive.
If they have a comfortable life in their country, they will not cross border.
There you go.
They will not leave their family
sense,
and come to where?
Yeah, it's common sense.
Exactly.
It's just common sense. How do we build a better world for everybody? I think we need to talk a little bit. We just had the elections in Iraq. Let's talk about where we are at now with the elections in Iraq.
Well, let me take you back a little bit.
Okay.
Before the election right now, in the last, we have 7 years, since 2003 up to date. People already voted one time. I did not vote this time. I have a reason. And my reason, since the people stopped voting to try to choose a good president or a good prime minister to run the country, and look what happened. I was in Iraq, 125 degrees, people get no electricity, no water, no constructions being built. People buying their water, buying electricity. Why? Where is our money? Where is the oil money? That's a question I will be always asked.
Well, part of that too, I mean, if we go back again, the U.S. set up contracts that these would go to private construction companies. Much of the money went into funding these big corporations, and even these outside contractors like Brown and Root, Halliburton, they come in, but they did not do the work.
Why?
They didn't hire the people.
Why they give the money if they did not hire people?
They just put it in their own pocket. Now,
billions of dollars.
That's right.
Of Iraqi people money.
What is the reason to go to war? I mean, I don't see, for many of these things, these wars seem to be for no other purpose than to put profit in the hands of war profiteers. Companies that want to make money on bombs and bullets and death and destruction, and then they don't even clean up their mess when they come in. I mean, they make a mess of the country, the environment. They destroyed the electrical plants, the sewer systems, and you have people, like you say, the innocent people, whether they supported the war or not, or if they supported the Americans or not. Those that are there are dying, the children. What's the average age of an Iraqi citizen now?
Well, honestly, it's very sad to even say it. People, young men, I've seen in my eyes, walking, dying, young men, stressed from life which is you cannot even imagine. Life full of sadness. Here in this country, I have met a people just because he went through some financial problem, he commits suicide. He killed himself just because he lost his job or he lost that many thousands of money. Or. Come to the Iraqi people who've been suffering 30 years. 30 years. And people still, please God help us. Please God help us. They always turn to God and ask God for help. But God needs our help too. He cannot just, yeah, I will help you, but you need to, make a move. So when the people start voting to choose the right people, but they put them down. We got Congress, where they go, Parliament. People in Parliament, where they go, Congress, if I was right.
Was that it? Congress, yeah.
Yeah, Congress. How many people there? Imagine each person, his salary, no less than $30,000 a month. And people who's engineering, who's teacher, their salary not even $200 a month. And you're talking $200 a month, how he can survive with 5 or 6 children. And he is one person sitting in that chair just because he represents a town or represent a city, he get $30,000. We need to be fair. We need to know this money or these people get the right amount of money for their job.
Well, a better distribution of wealth.
Exactly.
Right.
We need to choose the right people. I did not, honestly, personally, I went back to this same point. I did not vote because I did not see anybody who had been good to control Iraq or to even to hold Iraq. Everybody who comes, just like Iraq, make it like a big cake, cut it, eat it, or run away. That's what happened. I have seen myself in Syria, in Jordan, a lot of Iraqi people build hotels, buy a lot of land. Where does that money come from? Where does that $millions of dollars come from? All the money of Iraqi people.
Right.
And do you know how many refugee people in Syria? Do you know how many people refugee in Jordan? Do you know how many refugee here? Right now, Iraqi people come to the United States still suffering. They have no job. They cannot even pay their rent. They start asking their family from back home to wire them to pay their rent. And they are refugee in the United States. They've been having enough suffering. And they come here, they start suffering more.
It's amazing.
They don't have medical insurance. They don't have even food stamps to help at least to survive. Why? Why? Iraqi people had enough. We had enough. And look back now. I've seen my kids myself eating from the garbage. If you go to north of Iraq, we have gas coming out of the ground by itself. Just by selling it, you can cover all Iraq from it. Nobody will be hungry. If you go to south, to Basra, or to Nasiriyah, or to Amara, or to Muthanna, or to any town, you got oil.
Right. And I mean, we and that's what people are after. I mean, these nations outside want to control that oil. They want to control that wealth because they see it, literally in society. They know that oil is peaking, and eventually we will dry up those wells because the demand is huge. The demand is everywhere in the world now, but they don't want to pay the price for it. They want to control it. So the other is that even in countries that have oil, they need to start thinking about alternatives to oil, but they can use the money to build those alternatives, sun and solar and all of these other kind of wind resources that are available. These are things that are starting to happen in some countries already, which is amazing to see. In Latin America, I mean, why is Hugo Chavez such an enemy of the U.S.? Because he nationalized the oil company and used that money to rebuild the infrastructure for free education for all the kids, medical assistance and health care. He's almost wiped out illiteracy. These are the kinds of things. And then this country at the same time is closing schools, and it's as though people don't care about education anymore. You know, the same. It seems to me that a lot of these issues isn't about whether it's good for Iraq or whether it's good for the U.S. or whether it's good for the wider population. It's about how much profit you can make, and profit becomes the key problem with almost all of these wars and rape of the environment, because we're not looking at the ideas that, you know, these are resources that can be shared, that we know how to share the wealth of those resources among our community. We can build a better community.
Exactly. If that profit of that oil goes to the people, people will live better life. Nobody will suffer. Let me tell you this. In 35 years of Saddam being president, if Saddam was good with his own people, no war, no cemeteries, buried people alive, people will love Saddam. Nobody even talked to him. Oh, we are happy. We are happy. He gave us everything. Saddam was giving us everything. Why we have to get rid of him? But it was absolutely the opposite way.
Right.
War, jails, killing. You know, it's just sad thing to talk about it. I hope one day, now the new election, if Ayad Alawi will take over, hopefully first thing he's gonna do, clean up the government from the bad people, clean up the people who's in charge. If he can get rid of all these bad peoples, all these thieves, all these people who steal second the blood of the Iraqi people out of.
So with this election, though, is there a slate of people that were elected at the same time?
Well, we don't know yet.
You don't know yet.
Because we know about the old election.
Yeah.
And look what happened.
Yeah.
There's not even improvement.
Right.
They make contract with people. Okay, you go to, for example, to my hometown, Al Muthanna, and here is like 100 million. For example, 100 million. We need you to build a huge a sewer constructions.
Right.
And that person, what he did, he buy the old cheap stuff, not cost him even $1 million, and he put rest of the money in his pocket. And no one above him to ask him where is that rest of the money gone. And that's why Iraq not being built. Iraq was in the bad hands, not really people who love their own country and tried to build it. And so hopefully Ayad Alawi, if he become a vice president or even in the government or president, he will look to these people with the, we call it, eye of mercy. It's enough.
And I imagine too that there are a lot of people who are refugees that were had the technical skills to help rebuild the infrastructure.
Absolutely.
And those people have been. It's like a brain drain. They've been driven out. And if they can open up a real democratic society, we can bring people back home, right?
Exactly. I mean, in 6 months, I'll be graduated as a Cisco networking. And I would love to go back home and do something for my own people. Because I believe they need it more than here. The technology, the engineering, the doctors, they scared even to go back to Iraq because Iraq not safe to live. If they knew you are an American engineer, you came from America and you start working there, some bad people out there, they will sell you out to a terrorist. He's American, I can sell him for 20 grand, easy. You got kidnapped and killed. And so how can I be safe if I will go back and work in Baghdad and the violence is still active? Just 2 days ago, few bombs happened in Iraq. I mean, it's way much better than before. I have to declare that. It's much better than before, and hopefully, in God willing, will be, it's getting better, and because it's enough for innocent people killing and dying in the middle of downtown Baghdad or even any other town. Because I consider Iraq whole my hometown.
And more people are dying because of disease and starvation and various problems that
they don't have even clean water.
Clean water. Yeah.
I have seen the water myself. I smell it stink. Water not clean, dirty. If there is no electricity, how the water will be clean?
Clean, right.
If there is no electricity in 125 degrees of heat, what's going to happen to the brain of the human? He's going to be frustrated. He's going to be depressed. And imagine frustrated, depressed, sadness. What is that going to be react to?
Right, violence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Violence. Make people rest. Make people try. Iraq right now need millions of people to work to build Iraq. We got thousands of millions of Iraqi people engineering, doctors, all kind of things. And the Iraqi brain are so good. They fast learner. I have seen in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I was really shocked when I seen a kid sitting on the computer play a game on computer was in Iraq not even a 6 month, not even a year old. And he is just knows what he's doing. So I believe our people are so smart and they can move forward and build our country.
Well, that's a great hope. I mean, that's a great hope.
That's the hope I always look for, no matter how long.
Well, and when we talk about that, let's talk about, I mean, in this country, even the idea before going into Iraq, I mean, people only seem to know what's happening in the other world when there's a war going on, because they don't even know where Iraq was. You know?
Sure.
They had no idea. It was maybe some mythical place in their biblical readings or something. But if we go back there, well, let's talk about the history of Babylon. Let's talk about, this and Iran were the centers of the universe at one time.
It's just beautiful history.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? The religious places?
Yeah.
You want to talk about martial land?
Talk about education. Talk about
education. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
All of Iraq full of everything.
Yeah. This was the cradle of civilization at one point in time. What is it? I mean, and a lot of, every country in Middle East and in Africa and various places all say it's the land of the poets.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So, and the poets would sing their songs, and out of that they would talk about the stories of war and history, and also about peace and how to bring people together, about love.
Yes.
About loving their beautiful woman.
I wish if you do understand the Arabic language, if you come hear our songs or even our poetries, you will hear that beautiful love and sadness inside that love. God gave me a beautiful talent. I sing, but I'm not a popular person. I just sing for my family, sing for my friend. But always my friend tell me this. I have a very sad voice. Make other people, just in too much deep emotional and make them cry. Why they cry? What I've been through.
Mm-hmm.
What we have been through.
There's a beauty to it, yeah.
Exactly. Even the poetries.
Yeah.
They are so sad and love. It's full of love and romantic.
Do you have a poem in your head?
Yes,
that you can,
but in Arabic.
Can you translate it in English?
It's very hard to translate it. Even if I translate it, maybe it will not make sense. But it will make sense, but it's kind of...
Well, do it in your language, and then we'll see if you can translate it, just the feel of it.
Absolutely. I will say it in Arabic, and then
Okay.
I will translate as much as I can. This is poetry for one of my friends. He passed away
Okay.
in Detroit. His name is Jabbar Shadood. He says, God bless him, he says, رغم بعدك رغم طول المسافة اللي بينك وبيني أحس ينبض مشدود وأقرب من رمش عيني أنام تبات بعيوني أفز ألقاك بضنوني وكابر وابخل بدمعي وأحن ودموع تبكيني رغم بعدك رغم طول المسافة اللي بينك وبيني. What does that mean? He was talking to the homeland. He says, no matter how far you are from me, you always live with me. Even when I sleep, I feel you are with me. When I wake up, I see right there in front of my eyes. So it's a beautiful word. It's so sad.
Yeah.
It just, in that person, he's also was a refugee, and he was planning to go see his mother, and he died in car accident right before his passport showed up.
So sad.
It's very sad. Yeah. It just, his word, it touched my heart. And I'm sure his word touched a lot of Iraqi people who's really full of emotion and love to their homeland. And they hope in one day they will see Iraq in better place in good hands, who can really have the truth and good freedom of Iraqi people, and make the Iraqi people live in peace with no violence, with no this is Sunni or this is Shia or this is Kurdish or this is Christian. We don't need that. We all live in one land called Iraqi land. We love to live all as a brother and sister, and I don't care what you are. All I care is about you as a human, as an Iraqi person. I love to live with you as a brother, as a neighbor.
That's beautiful.
Honestly, that's what we hope. Looking forward to see the Iraqi people like that one day.
Well, I pray that that happens for you. The one thing I don't know, we've got about 5 minutes left. Do you think, just talking to my my crew up here, do you think we could play a little bit of that tape then as we roll out for the demonstration on March 20th? Would that work? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to roll out of here. I want to roll out with this. We had a demonstration against the war on March 20th, and it was at the Terry Schrunk Park by the Federal Building, and then they marched up to the First Unitarian Church, and there was a panel of speakers there, and it was very moving to listen to the speakers. Again, as a parent who lost a child because of my relationship to being exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam, and I lost my son after 7 weeks in a coma from a heart surgery that went bad. He was 3 years old. It was in 1981. I listened to a mother on this panel talk about her daughter who went to Iraq, who was in the National Guard, and ended up being wounded and severely wounded, and with her own post-traumatic stress and her wounds, making life very difficult for her today. And these are the sad things. Or this young woman that just died, and the parents in Eugene. You know, whether it's about us or about the people that we go into their country and supposedly there to help liberate. People, you asked me to ask you a question, did I ever think this war was good for Iraq?
Truth answer, no.
That's because no war is good, right?
There is no winner.
There's no winner in a war.
And the real winner is let the country, their own people, to provide that democracy to their own people. Get rid of the bad and bring in new people and good people to hold on to that country.
Okay, and we're going to stream out here with the last little bit. There's also, if you want to watch this, it's being actually our first program in which this is being streamed over the internet. So I hope you have an opportunity to see that. You can go to www.usstream.tv, and maybe you can pick it up and watch it later if you didn't get a chance to see it all.
Absolutely.
And so if we go ahead and roll out there, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this program. We come on once a month on the fourth Saturday of every month. And Massem, it was a pleasure that we had you here. I'm really glad we met and we had an opportunity to talk.
Thank you, and thank you to the crew, and thanks to have this opportunity and to express the feeling of at least of the Iraqi people and how we feel about what's going on right now.
Well, I hope maybe we'll see a better future here, and you can come back and talk to us. You want to go back and do a documentary?
I would love to. That will be happening very soon.
That would be good.
Thank you.
So are we going out with that? Okay, let's go ahead then.
We got a lot of work to do. And I'm looking at this sign before me and it says, 9 years of war, and I still can't believe we still have to protest this issue. My sentiments exactly. We are tired of this. We've had enough. We want our folks to come home. 7 years later, we still, need to change our U.S. foreign policy and bring our troops home. We need to end the occupation of Iraq, Afghanistan, and Palestine. Stop the spending tax on the Middle East. No drone strikes in Pakistan. I mean, enough is enough. We're tired of it. And we're showing that by coming here and supporting.
Hi, I'm John Gresho, and I coordinate the Military and Draft Counseling Project, which is a part of the War Resisters League Portland chapter. War is hell. War is a cowardly escape from the problems of peace. All wars are fought for money. That's actually a quote from Socrates. War is the enemy. War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Or as the comedian George Carlin has said many times, it's all bullshit and it's bad for you. War is not glamorous or glorious. It's not an adventure. It's not God's work, and it's not a video game. War is not a passport to adulthood, as recruiters used to say, and it's not a passport to citizenship. It's not the best way to get to college or to get job training. I want to really impress upon you all the importance of outreach to young people around this issue, the importance of counter-recruiting work in public schools. As Eugene Debs once said a long time ago, I would no more teach children military training than teach them arson, robbery, or assassination. Yet we have military recruiters in all of our public schools, all throughout the country, all telling kids half-truths and lies, trying to convince them to sign up for the military, bribing them with money for college and promises of job training, travel and adventure, and that kind of thing. The Military and Draft Counseling Project, along with Recruiter Watch PDX, try to do outreach work to students in the schools. We stand out in front of Portland high schools and pass on information to schools in the mornings. We need help with that. We buy ads in student newspapers. We need help organizing that. We speak in classes sometimes, and we lobby the Portland School Board for better policy around military access. We need help with all those things, and it's really important. I saw a bumper sticker the other day that said this: the problems we face will not be solved by the minds that created them. We really need to reach out to our young people because they're the future, and they're the ones who are going to be making future decisions about whether our country goes to war or not. We need to dispel the myths about that war is glamorous and glorious, and we need to give students the support and the information they need so that they can make good decisions in the future.
When do we want it? Now! When do we want it? Troops out! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Troops out! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Troops out! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Troops out! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Troops out! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Troops out! When do we want it? Now!
I'm Maria Medina. I'm a program director with the American Friends Service Committee. The main thing that I do is a youth program called United Voices, and what we do is we work with young people, especially marginalized youth, youth of color, queer youth, all forms of youth, to work in counter-recruitment and peace activities. One thing that we're really trying to work on is getting youth free of militarization and military-free schools. So it's something that's very important. If people want to enlist, let youth go and enlist themselves when they turn 18. But we don't need military recruiters inside of our schools militarizing our young people. We meet every Thursday at the American Friends Service office, so if you know of any youth that would like to learn about activism or mobilizing folks in the peace movement when they are young and growing into adulthood, then please send them my way. We work very hard. We create a zine. We travel. We teach workshops. Well, actually, I don't. The youth do. And we have some other youth, but these are some of the youth that I work with. Again, we are called United Voices from the American Friends Service Committee, fighting militarism all over the world, one youth at a time.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Darlene, aka Black Butterfly. I'm a spoken word artist, community activist, youth advocate, guerrilla theater facilitator, you name it, I do it. I'm going to share some spoken word with you. My people, my people, my people are. My people, my people, my people are. Trapped behind enemy lines, know everything ain't fine. These folks keep messing with our minds. Got my face pressing up against this grate and it's tearing up my face, but freedom is on the other side, I can taste it. I said freedom is on the other side, I can taste it. See, we are in a system of things as far as the pendulum swings from left to right, trying to bring some dark places light. See, by the time you get this, there'll be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 or more casualties of war, and they won't even know it. See, everything you see and do, they're trying to control you. Cell phones, OnStar, TiVo, GPS, satellite radios. Oh yeah, no commercials. See, we live in the highest unemployment state, and Bush had folks donating $2,000 a plate, and we didn't line up the fences of UFP. What happened to all the revolutionaries? See, wasn't that you standing next to me at the Panther exhibit? Oh yeah, that's right. Some of y'all wasn't with it, but we are still reaping the benefits of it. You know that breakfast program and that free lunch program that you send your children to every day? That was implemented by the Panthers. See, we are all striving to reach heights never reached, and I pray that we remember to teach. Each one, reach one. Each step that we take brings us to a more enlightened place where we dwell in love and not hate. Each one, teach one is the way it is done. Interject your intellect. And where your intellect falls short, find a child running wild and teach them what you know. Make sure that our seeds continue to grow. 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 Tame them with spiritual wisdom of knowledge of self and of wealth or the lack of it. Teach them of capitalism, racism, sexism, spiritualism, and all those other isms that cause folks to build themselves in cages from which they cannot escape. And slavery is on the rise again, but this time we are not bound physically. We are entrapped mentally, and it's disguised as prosperity. Got you chasing after a brass ring instead of lifting up your voices and singing. We have the power in our hands. 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 See, we are all prisoners of war. But what side are you fighting for? You're doing what you can do, rising up and taking action. Let's take it to the streets.